All right. So, what I'm going to explain today is I'm going to go over some of the basics about how to make money with pay-per-click advertising campaigns. I've spent millions of dollars successfully marketing with paid advertisement, and when I'm talking with clients, I have found myself kind of explaining the same basic principles over and over again. So I decided that it might be a good idea to put together this video to just kind of do the whole tell-all and give you a general idea of how I set things up and why I set things up like I do. So before we get to the diagram where I'm going to explain everything to you, let me just explain a couple things here just to give you a preface about what we're doing. This isn't going to be a step-by-step tutorial. This video is more to give you a good general understanding of the principles of how paid advertising, retargeting audiences, segmenting, different things like that can all work together. If you're looking for a detailed step-by-step, this isn't for you. But if you want some general information on how you can build, scale, and make a lot of money with PPC, that's what we're going to be going over with right now. So the beginning of it, let's talk about the different stages. Segmenting is extremely important. So something that kind of where everyone seems to start is they will have an ad that they'll make, and they will put they'll put it up on Facebook, or they'll put it up on wherever they're wanting it to be, and they'll just run it, and that's the first thing that they're doing. It's just a single ad. So what that is we're gonna call that the kind of top of the funnel audience. And what is happening here typically is you're putting something out there hoping to kind of randomly hook different people that are interested in what you have going on. You're probably trying to do a little bit of segmentation in the beginning, which you can do if you're running Facebook ads. Then you can do quite a bit of different demographic segmentation, kind of targeting your audience. You can do the same thing with the Google platforms, and that's kind of where you're starting. But it's basically like kind of a shotgun approach, throwing things out there and seeing what's going to stick. So we're going to call that the cold audience. And how I like to think about this is basically this is something that we're trying to build, okay? Because based on the reactions that we have from people that are interacting with our ad here, we're going to be able to create the warm audience. Which is probably going to have significantly less people. But if we set this up right, then this is something that you're going to have a huge return on this. So basically, let's try and illustrate this a little bit. I've done a lot of stuff with tours and activities in Hawaii. Okay. So with that, there's the cold audience where you're going to be going for different things to do in Hawaii, different places in Hawaii, things that people might be searching for. Okay. But really, depending on what part of the industry you're working with, if you're doing tours and activities, then they already have to have a place that's already been established where they're going. They have to have a time that they're going there. Until they have that, they can't plan anything. So if you're advertising to them, it's basically just going to be some branding that you're going to be doing, because they're probably not going to have a direct conversion at that time, because they don't know where exactly they're going to be or when they're going to be there. Both are definitely essential things in order to get the reservation made, right? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to segment the people who are interested in Hawaii down to the people who are interested in Hawaii and who are interested in Hawaii right now. Okay? We can figure out the people that are coming to Hawaii right now from a variety of different things. We can make a quiz that asks them when they're coming to Hawaii, and then it's going to hit them at a specific time. We could do something that's gonna show us the intent of when they're actually looking to buy something based on maybe their location. They just got here and then they're searching a specific term or something like that. There's a lot of different things we can do to decide if they're going to be in this warm audience. When you spend money on this warm audience, you're going to have a high return. However, you're going to see that this is going to cap out. You're going to plateau this. Because there's only so many people that are in it. Okay? We're going to come back to that in a little bit when we talk about scaling. The next thing that we're going to talk about is if you wanted to have like a hot audience. You're going to see these same principles apply. They're going to condense even more. It's going to be on a bigger scale, because as you go farther down the funnel, it's going to be less. So you can think about this as basically we're starting with a lot, and then we're getting more segmented, and then we're getting more segmented down to the actual buyers. Okay? So the hot audience, this might be something like they've actually put something into a cart on your website. You have some specific data that tells you that not only are they interested, but they're in buy mode. Okay? So you probably want to get those people with a whole different sort of campaign. And you want to have these set up so that they're working together. Okay? So now let's talk about scaling, because that's one of the things where I see a lot of people kind of get messed up. Typical use case that I see here is there's somebody that's like a professional, an agency or something like that, that has come through and they've kind of set this up. At which point, maybe they stopped paying attention to it. Maybe they weren't tracking things right. They're not in the picture anymore. Okay, so this has got taken over. And money starts getting reallocated, changes start getting made. Maybe the whole wherewithal of what was set up in the beginning wasn't really recognized, and then things start getting out of whack, and it's not returning like it used to. This a lot of time is because the scaling just kind of gets messed up. So let's look at this, what we have here. We have the cold audience, which basically is going to it's, if you can break even on this, if you can get like a 1x return on ad spend, in my opinion, you're doing great, because what you're doing at that point is free prospecting. Okay? That means that you're finding and you're filtering all these people for free if you get a 1x. Okay? So what that means is that if you spent $20 on this, you're going to get $20 in net revenue. Okay? So it's going to be even. You're going to get back out what you put in. That's going to be a 1 times return on ad spend. If it was a 2 times, then you'd put in 20, you get out 40. Okay? Which down here, you can definitely get into that zone where you can have even way higher return on ad spend. But if you don't have the prospects in there, there's only so many people that you can market to before you're going to start hitting the law of diminishing returns, and you're going to have you're going to have issues with um, the returns not being as high as they could or they should be. So with the cold audience, if you can keep this coming in and you're not losing anything on it and you can scale that, that's great. So maybe you can do that by having some kind of an introductory offer, something that's going to kind of appeal to the masses in some way, that's simply too good to refuse and is, you know, really, really packed with a lot of different value, that is going to give you a good chance of kind of casting out that really wide audience and having enough mass appeal in order to just be able to make your money back on it. But now we want to talk about making your real money. Okay. Typically where that's going to happen is from the people that are further down here. Okay. If you're working with something that's a little bit more high ticket, people generally are going to be thinking about things for a little bit longer. They're going to be a little bit more educated buyers than they might be on something that's more of an impulse buy. So if it's something that is going to cost them more, this is going to be their once in a lifetime wedding vacation. They're going to think about it for a little bit longer than it would be if it was going to be a Christmas gift for a distant relative. Okay. So where the Christmas gift to a different relative, you might kill it on the cold audience because you're just kind of getting people that are impulse buying it and they're not thinking about it very much. Whereas it's a higher ticket thing, it's a house or a car, or a vacation, something that is, they're thinking about it a bit longer. They're going to go through this whole cycle and you're going to have to work this lead digitally for much longer than you would one of the impulse buy sort of things. So you're going to generate your warm audience here with the byproduct of your cold audience, the people that you've been able to target from here. From this, you're going to want to spend as much as you can until you start seeing a plateau, which is going to be either a flat line or you're going to start seeing things go down. Okay. It's going to be good. And then you're going to market to everybody and there's not going to be more people to market to. The frequency of the ads is going to start going up to be higher and higher and higher to the point where you've already basically sold everyone in here. At which point when this comes down, that's your signal to turn this up. Okay. Sometimes you're even going to lose money on this. Like I said, if you can get a 1x, I think you're doing good. A lot of times you're going to write off the loss on this whole campaign because this is going to be so big. This is going to be even bigger. So let's say that you have something, there's an add to cart. They've signified intent by putting in a contact form, but they haven't purchased anything yet. Something along the lines of where you think that they're going to, where they're typically like really circling close to, you know, on the edge of buying something. That's going to be the hot audience. The hot audience is something where you can make a ton of money. And this is where, like on the e-com stuff that I do, I call this the ATC audience, the add to cart audience. That's an example of one of the hot audiences. And depending on how big of an audience I have there, I can easily see 10 to 25x returns on every dollar that I put in here. Put in $1 and you can see $25 coming out. Okay. However, you'll get to a point fairly quickly where, you know, you're like, okay, let's put in $100. And then it goes down to a 5x return. You know, let's put in $500 now. It turns down to a 1x return. That's what you got to manage. So it's basically you want to keep all these full without overflowing, without working the leads too hard to where you're really starting to see that law of diminishing returns. Okay. So I know that might have been a lot. That's kind of like the basic sort of structure that we generally set up. when we're doing some market segmentation, trying to make the most that we can out of your PPC ad dollar. And it can definitely be a little bit complicated on the front end, and then on the back end, the technical implementation of that and getting a little bit more detailed into the specifics of the audience targeting, what we're using, why we're using it, all that stuff can get really confusing. So it's definitely something where if you want to jump on a call and you want to talk about this, try and work a good plan that applies to you, feel free to get in touch with me and my team, and we'll be happy to walk you through the process and try and figure out something that's going to work in the context of what you do, and why your audience kind of has the unique behaviors and things that apply to them in the context of your industry. So I hope there was some value here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and enjoy. Bye-bye.